What we've seen now in the past year is that when central banks have lowered interest rates below zero, this has affected all other market interest rates and lowered interest rates across the board. So the idea of the zero lower bound is that it is not possible to lower interest rates below zero. But it turns out that it's an outdated concept. Nowadays we have several central banks that have lowered interest rates below zero. It's hard to say where the effective lower bound is. It depends on a range of factors. At one point people will substitute into cash, but we don't really know where that is because it has to do with the costs of hoarding cash. But prior to that, there are legal restrictions, operational restrictions, which may in fact also affect where the effective lower bound is. The central banks that have done it all have different objectives, so to speak, but there is a common theme, that is to provide more monetary stimulus. For example, the central bank that I represent, it's in order to get inflation to rise to the target. So it's to provide more monetary stimulus. It turns out that it wasn't enough going to zero, several central banks around the world have now gone into negative territory. What we've seen now in the past year is that when central banks have lowered interest rates below zero, this has affected all other market interest rates and lowered interest rates across the board. This has boosted consumption. It has provided the stimulus that the central banks were looking for. In my case, inflation is rising in Sweden. Well, I think that the conference today and real-world developments in the past year have shown that the zero lower bound is no more. It's been broken through. There is now room for more monetary stimulus. That can be seen as a good thing, but there is also a downside to these negative rates. But central banks are monitoring these developments closely. We're learning more about the unintended effects of negative interest rates. Is it a sign of success or is it a sign of failure that central banks have to lower interest rates that far? I think public perception of these negative interest rates, I think that's going to be a very important factor determining how much the negative rates are used in the future.